Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're back to our usual schedule. It is standard Monday, of course, and you can expect to see a video on Friday as well for the expanded format. Now that me and Jack are sort of back to our usual schedule, Christmas and New Year is all over. Hope yours was all good, and we're back now to a more standard schedule. We're also going to try and do a few different things midweek as well, starting with an interesting video that I'll be doing on Wednesday. So definitely stay tuned for those and give us your feedback on those as well. But today, let's look at Charizard Entei, the latecomer to US cities that's really taken off quite quickly and is now one of the best performing decks and is probably in the top 3 for standard right now. It's also done well in the UK right now. It's won a cities and it's also claimed multiple top cut spots as well. So this right here, the one you're looking at, is the list that I played and took to Reading cities. I didn't manage to top cut, but I do have a good working knowledge of how this deck functions and a bunch of different matchups. So hopefully I can describe this list for you, why I made these decisions and stuff like that. It should be pretty good. So what's so good about Charizard Entei? Well, it's pretty explosive thanks to this engine of Blacksmith plus the combination of Double Colorless. We can sometimes get 4 energy on the field in a single turn, which is absolutely crazy. It lets us use these higher end sort of damage caps, which is pretty awesome. So when we need to, we can achieve 1-hit KOs on 170 HP EX Pokemon, giving us good prize trade. And that's from the very first turn of the game we can start doing that. So a lot of explosive speed and power with this deck, which is pretty appealing. However, this isn't just a one-trick pony. It also has great tanking potential as well. And that really helps us out against stuff like Night March and stuff like Vespiquen. So let's look at the main attacker now. It's going to be Entei. He has 130 HP. He's a basic, and of course he's a fire type, so we can use Blacksmith on him. And he has this very important thing here, the Theta Double, allowing us to attach 2 tools to him at one time. So this is pretty awesome. So when we look at his attacks now, you can imagine that we can plus 40 damage if we have 2 muscle bands, or we can have a vest on him at the same time, or 2 even. So we can effectively at times have 210 HP if we're being attacked by things that use special energy. And let's face it, other than stuff like Manectric, Yveltal, which we already have a great matchup against thanks to our typing, and maybe Kyogre if people are playing Rogue, everything else plays specials. So Assault Vest is an absolutely fantastic inclusion in here. So this really bulky non-EX Pokemon is what we're going to try and use in certain matchups, and then in other matchups we can just do huge numbers. So both of his attacks are really important and play a number of roles in different matchups. So the first one is Flame Screen. It does 30, and of course remember we can put muscle bands on at times. So a single muscle band means we can kill Vespiquens in one hit. Also with a muscle band on the first turn we can catch things off guard like Zubats, Combees, some of the EVs as well if they're playing the lower HP EV. So that's pretty awesome. And not only that, but we also reduce damage done to ourselves by 30. And this is really awesome. It again can be helpful in matchups like Night March, because we can kill a Joltik with that 30 damage, and we reduce an additional 30 to the number of vests we have on ourselves as well. So we can potentially have effectively 240 HP against Night March. And if anyone's been playing Night March, they will know, very difficult to hit that number. You need to have all your Night Marches in the discard pile, plus Muscle Band, plus Giovanni to actually get that knockout. So that's pretty intense. So Entei should have a decent matchup against Night March as long as they're not running Megaphones. So that's pretty awesome. Not only that, the reduction can be helpful against stuff like Seismitoad. As you can see, we are water weak, so Seismitoad's Quaking Punch does do double damage. Flame Screen can be really nice for reducing the damage that we take from Seismitoad. And as well, as long as we can get vests on board before we are hit with Quaking Punch, we can reduce that damage even further. Sometimes Toad might not be even doing any damage to Entei, so that sounds pretty favourable to me. So Flame Screen, great for knocking out lower HP Pokemon and for Vespiquen, thanks to the weakness. It's also really handy against 180 HP Pokemon EXs, because we can't one-hit these guys. Entei and Charizard are both capped at 170 in this deck, so sometimes Flame Screen is our first turn option or our early game option whenever we see these 180 HP EXs to get the initial damage on board. And again, reducing by 30 means that Entei is more likely to survive. We effectively have 160, not too many things other than Charizard Entei can hit those sorts of numbers very early on in the game. So we protect Entei for the following turns when we can use his second attack, which is Heat Tackle. Equally amazing, equally as fast, believe it or not. It is the cost of 2 fire and 2 colourless energies, which can be achieved in a single turn thanks to Blacksmith plus DCE. So we can effectively threaten 170 damage turn 1 if we are able to find 2 muscle bands. And that's pretty insane. It's just, yeah, turn 1, 170, that's pretty hard to come back from on its own. And that's one of the main reasons people like playing Charizard Entei, because we can use this Heat Tackle on the first turn. So it's really nice for explosive damage. Combination with Flame Screen, if we are up against 180 HP Pokemon, we can Flame Screen turn 1, find the Muscle Band turn 2 and get the knockout. Or if we have Muscle Band turn 1, we can, do the damage either way. So that's really awesome. What else is good about Entei? Well, let's just think about some of these 170 HP EXs. Giratina for one, Yveltal, and Manectric. Those are all probably the most popular EXs that you're looking to find right now. So these are all fantastic. There is one slight downside to Heat Tackle, and that's that you have to flip a coin if tails you do 30 damage to yourself. Only really a big deal if you're tanking, and it's not really something to worry about, because if you are just swinging for this 170, getting a knockout, you're still in favourable prize exchange if they're able to respond KO the Entei, because this deck can, you send up a new Entei, you Blacksmith, you DCE, you've got another one ready to go to respond. So it's absolutely amazing, this card, and it is the front man of the deck. So Charizard is also a pretty handy one-of in this deck. He's really nice to have. He's effectively a 5th Entei. He's like the last card you want to use, really, once your opponent has gone through all of these one-prize Pokemon. And Charizard's the great sort of last chance option. Not only that, he's actually really good for Night March as well. If you are able to slap the vest on Charizard, you have effectively 220 HP. So again, they're in that awkward situation where every Night Marcher, apart from the one they're attacking with, has to be in the discard pile, and they need to have Double Colorless, Muscle Band attached as well. So Charizard again forcing these awkward situations, and Wing Attack does the perfect numbers. You can hit 60 for 3 colorless energy, so Blacksmith plus a single fire, or just a double colorless and a single fire. However you want to get him set up, it can be done in a single turn very easily, and you can knock out both Joltix and Pumpkaboos. Something that Entei doesn't really like doing. Your opponent keeps sending up Pumpkaboos in that Night March matchup. It's kind of awkward for you, because you don't really want to commit 2 Muscle Bands just to an Entei, because Night March then has an easier time of knocking you out. So Charizard is a really nice card in that matchup. We also share pretty much the same attack as Entei. Combustion Blast for the same attack cost as that second attack of Entei. And it's 150 base damage now. So just with a single Muscle Band we can hit the magic 170, which is pretty awesome. It sort of saves us tools slightly. It means we have to dig less through our deck and stuff like that. Slightly awkward thing is that we can't use Combustion Blast during your next turn, so either you have to retreat or use one of these Super Scoop Ups that we have. So Charizard isn't going to be running through the entire game. We're just going to use him probably to be a late game finisher. He's often that option. Or just when you wouldn't otherwise have a KO. Like if you only have access to 1 Muscle Band, you go into Charizard just to take those prizes as quickly as possible. So he is effectively our 5th Entei in the deck, and he's also really handy against Night March. So that warrants his single place in here. Thanks to his HP as well, he's actually pretty handy for the mirror match, because as I've said, we're capped at 170, both of our attackers, Charizard and Entei. So if we can use Charizard on our own, we can use Combustion Blast to knock out Entei's, and yeah, that's pretty handy. It's good to know that for the mirror match, which is important. So our final Pokemon is going to be 3 Shaymin EX. Because of our reliance on Blacksmith, Shaymin is really, really crucial. It's alongside our trainer draw. It's the main thing that's going to get us cards, basically. So setup, more important in this deck than in most. And yeah, you really rely on drawing into your stuff. Shaymin is going to be awesome. We have Super Scoop Ups. That's one of the main reasons why we max Super Scoop Up in here, to try and reuse Shaymin whenever possible. So that's really important. Because we don't have any guaranteed switching methods in the deck, Sky Return might be an option that we have to use. Maybe if we lead Shaymin in the first turn and we can't find Super Scoop Up, or if we flip a couple of tails, Sky Return, thanks to a DCE cost, we can do that quite easily. It's also an option against Night March, as you know. Kill a Joltik, return that DC to the hand, so we retain it for future turns. And then we can just throw up like an empty Entei that just has maybe a vest on it or something like that to make it still awkward for them. And if they don't kill the Entei, then you've still got your Entei and all these other things. So basically you wipe those two prizes out of the board, basically, just out of the game. So these are your only Pokemon that you need, just 8. It's pretty much a quad Entei deck, but you have these other techs just involved to keep you going, which is awesome. So let's have a look at some of these trainers now. As you can see, the draw engine is a huge factor of this deck. I've said how important Shaymin is for getting you cards. And again, we're going to use trainers mainly to get us more cards, because Blacksmith is going to take up our supporter slot for the turn most of the time. We have to find cards in other ways. So we are playing 3 Acro Bike in this deck. I like the combination of Acro Bike and roller skates. Some people play just one, some people like me play a combination of the two. I like having Acro Bike just because it guarantees you cards. Also in the early game it can help us get fires in the discard pile, which is pretty awesome. The reason why I didn't like a full 4 count and I added some roller skates in here was because it can be painful having to discard stuff like Blacksmith, discard maybe a DCE or a muscle band or another tool like that. It can be really awkward if you have to do that. I actually did have to do that in my Cities event. I had to get rid of a DCE because I acrobiked and they were both double colorless energies. Stuff like that can be really detrimental. So you may even want to cut acrobike further down from 3 up more roller skates. But personally, I like having guaranteed cards because there are times when you flip tails on this bad boy and you feel really silly. But when you do flip heads on the roller skates, you're ecstatic because you get to get 3 cards. That is a really nice card once you do flip those heads. So roller skates again warrants itself in the deck just because we really need to hit cards. Because like I keep saying, most people, they can use Sycamores or Birches or Shaunas or Judge even to refresh their hands, whereas we have to use Blacksmith most turns. So we need to have these other options in here to get us more cards. We're playing 3 Compressor. This is fantastic for getting fires in the discard pile. You can also throw away a Blacksmith so that our VS Seekers become live targets on the first turn. So that's pretty handy as well. We can also throw away our other supporter cards, Lysandre and Sycamore, so that we have more access to them again via VS Seeker. Because they are just one-ofs in the deck, we want to have more access to them via the discard pile. Also in stuff like mirror matches, we can throw away less important cards like Scorched Earth and whatever else. Normally the first Compressor is going to be a couple of fire and a Blacksmith. The second one might get rid of your couple of supporters, and then maybe the third Compressor can just be compressed away itself so it doesn't clunk out the deck. But yeah, Compressor helps us de-clunk really, which is really nice in here because, like I keep referring to, Blacksmith is our supporter, so every single top deck really does matter for us, and we need to keep getting into good cards. We are maxing out the Super Scoop Up. It's our only means of switching in the deck, so if we do lead with Shaymin and we're looking to get an attack off with either Entei or Charizard, we need to be able to move Shaymin. Super Scoop Up is going to be a great option for that. Also, at any point in the game, if you can scoop up a Shaymin and get more cards, that is also fantastic. Great option for us. And of course we have the heal option, because I keep mentioning Entei's tank potential with vests and with Flames Green. We can take some damage, Super Scoop Up, get rid of all that damage, and then we can use Blacksmith and the DC that we just picked back up to reset a completely new Entei or maybe a different attacker like Charizard and carry on from there. So plenty of reasons why I like maxing out Scoop Up in this deck. One-off trainer that we have is Town Map. Town Map's absolutely excellent in this deck. We are heavily reliant on double colorless energy, and we're heavily reliant on these tools. I think these are guaranteed to be maxed out. Some people go down to 3 Vest and potentially play Eco Arm. I'll talk about some other options this deck has later on in the video. I think it's a section that me and Jack are going to try adding in for some more entertainment and more discussion value down below. So at the moment we're playing Town Map just so that we can find these off of prizes. So that's pretty awesome. And effectively it acts as like an extra good card that we need at the right time. So pretty awesome. Maxing out Trainer's Mail. Look how many trainers we play. Trainer's Mail is always going to be useful for us. getting us into pretty much great combo pieces. We're playing 4 Ultra Ball as well. It's fantastic for finding Shaymin. And we have a really low Pokemon count, so oftentimes using Ultra Ball just to fill up our bench is important. Additionally, it's a way of getting fires in the discard pile. Maxing out the VS Seeker, we need to hit Blacksmiths whenever possible, and we need to hit these other dudes as well at times, so pretty handy. Maxing out Blacksmith, absolutely essential. One of the most essential cards in the deck that keeps this working so that you can get your attacks off. Have to max this guy out. So, why only one Lysandre? Well, I keep saying it, Blacksmith is the card that we're using most turns, so we don't have many options to use Lysandre, but when we do, we can kill a Shaymin, or we can pick up something from the bench that we've damaged earlier and knock them out. So it's worth having in here whenever you have the luxury of not needing to Blacksmith. So if Entei survived a hit, or if Charizard survived a hit, we can use Lysandre and take another couple of prizes, which is pretty awesome. Similar situation for the Sycamore. I would play more, but we just need to Blacksmith, so you don't have that option. Sycamore's often a great play on the first turn if you are going first, because then you don't need to attack, so you don't need to Blacksmith on the very first turn. So just seeing more cards via a Sycamore might be worth it. It allows you to find more tools, more Pokemon, basically set you up even more throughout the game. So Sycamore's a great turn 1 option when you're going first. And again, if you are completely stuck and dead, you might have to sacrifice a turn of attacking and just freshen up your hand with a Sycamore. So there we are. Next up, we're playing 3 Scorched Earth. I think the number 3 for stadiums in general is pretty spot on. You want to have something to remove stadiums. You want to make it more difficult for Night March to get their Dimension Valleys, because you want to force Joltik. It's a lot easier for this deck to deal with Joltik than it is to deal with Pumpkaboo. So having a high stadium count forces them to keep finding Dimension Valleys or forces them into Joltiks. So it's good to have 3 in here. Of course, it's another means of getting draw cards, discarding fires to get more cards, and it's a non-trainer based way of doing it, which is handy against stuff like Seismitoad decks, so that's pretty nice. I like the number 3, like I say. It's also going to help us out against stuff like Raichu bats, because you're lowering their bench size, making it more difficult for them to kill Enteis and stuff like that. Plenty of different reasons why I like having a high stadium count, or at least a semi-high stadium count in this deck. Pretty self-explanatory. 4 Vest, 4 Muscle Band, and 4 DCE. These are like the things you want to see almost every turn. These are absolutely great when you start drawing into these. That's basically the whole reason for this draw engine. You want to be finding these cards and your Blacksmith. These are really the only things that you're looking for most games. Finally, we have the 6 Fire. I feel like we need no more than 6 in the deck, because Blacksmith is going to keep refreshing. We have a potential of 8 Blacksmiths, and that will see us through every game, no doubt. If you've not won by then, you're losing the game anyway, so that's pretty awesome. Like we say, we don't need any more than that. It's very rare that you'll be attaching single fire energies, maybe to retreat a Shaymin at times, maybe to attach for a wing attack, but that's about it. Other than that, you don't need to attach single fires at all. Your manual attachment should always be double colorless energy, if not as like in addition to Blacksmith. So that's all you really need the fire energies for. Other than that, they're pretty much dead cards, so we want to keep that count as low as possible. So that is my list. Let me quickly add a new section that we're trying out here, where we talk about a couple of different options that we could put in this deck. And one of them is going to be this Jirachi. Let's pull it up here. Jirachi is something that I didn't play, but it's something that I considered playing. Stardust can help us out a little bit more against stuff like Giratina and Seismitoad. Giratina can be an issue because, of course, it shuts off our tools, and obviously Toad is an issue because not only does it hit for weakness, but it locks out our trainers, and it does all these awkward things as well. So a single Jirachi in here could be pretty handy at times, and it could also be handy here and there against Night March, just when, basically, if you've missed a turn of getting Blacksmith and all that stuff, if you know your hand is terrible, just send up a Jirachi and go for a Stardust on that turn. It's pretty much better than nothing, but only slightly. Plus, that 10 damage can actually be relevant for 180 HP Pokemon, so although I didn't put it in the deck, it's something I would think about. There's actually a few more cards that I want to talk about that I didn't play, but you could play. One of them is going to be Parallel City. I know a lot of decks have been playing Parallel City, and it's pretty good for a number of reasons. If you face this side against your opponent, it can help us out once again against Seismitoad, help limit their damage to the point where Quaking Punch is useless to them. It can also really help out against mirror matches because you're limiting fire output as well. It's rare that you're going to put this side against yourself. Oh no, it's rare that you're going to put this side against your opponent because you minus your own damage. But if it means that you can kill your own Shaymins and get rid of prize targets on your bench, it might be worth doing. So that's also something to bear in mind. So yeah, some players like playing a single parallel city as well. Maybe just cut down the Scorched Earth rather than playing a fourth stadium. So Catcher is also an option that some Entei players have been using. Just getting rid of the Lysandre altogether and trying to play 2-3 catchers maybe. Just to have a gusting effect in addition to using blacksmiths. I keep saying that you're blacksmithing so you're not using your other things. So if you make space for catcher, you can catcher up Shaymins and have a better time at winning the prize exchange. Similarly, you could play just one escape rope, something I debated about having. It's also a guaranteed switch in the deck, which is pretty nice. And there's a bunch of times when your opponent is going to throw up something just to be a sacrificial wall. You can use escape rope at the right time to force them into another Pokemon or an EX or just something more awkward. Because again, we're limited to Blacksmith, so we can't Lysandre as often as other decks. So escape rope might be a nice tech option as well. Other than that, let's look at Giovanni's scheme. This is a supporter that you could be playing. It allows you to now hit an extra 20, so those 180 HP Pokemon now come in range, which is pretty awesome. It's just a math fixer that you could choose to play, but I chose not to play it basically because, again, it's something that isn't Blacksmith, so why am I using it? That's basically my my justification. Let's finally look at Eco Arm. This is a one-off card that some people have been trying in their lists. Some cut down to 3 Assault Vest and play a single Eco Arm. I can see that working because effectively in matchups where you need your vest, you can have up to 6. In matchups where you need Muscle Band, you can have up to 7. However, in practice, you oftentimes get Eco Arm at the wrong time, and you know, just you're not getting the full value out of Eco Arm. At times, you just rather it be an Assault Vest physically at the time. And we, like I keep mentioning, so few dead draws in the deck can be so detrimental. Like, as you can see, we're trying to be as turbo as possible right now with this list. So even a single Eco Arm can be a bad top deck, which turns a win to a loss. So those are some options for you. I thought it's going to be a nice, interesting inclusion to our deck analysis, talking about 1 or 2 options that we've chosen not to play, but we have considered, and it's something for you maybe to play around with based on personal preference. That's why we didn't play those sorts of cards, but they were in our thoughts, and they were pretty close to making the cut. So that is the list, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed this new section where we talk about a few other options for the deck. I think it's a nice, interesting inclusion, gets more conversation down in the comments. Speaking of comments, leave a like on this video and let me hear your thoughts about our list and maybe why you play one of those techs, or maybe there's another tech that we didn't even think about that you'd like to talk about down below. So let's jump into some battles now, and I'll see you in a... So we found ourselves a battle against Pokebert, and we are quickly loading, and we're flipping a coin here. Looks like it's my coin, so I get to choose. We'll go for heads, as I always do. We happen to win the flip, and we'll go first. There's a couple of matchups where you might consider going second. The mirror match is one of them. So if you know your opponent's playing a mirror match, if you know your opponent's playing Charizard Entei, it's actually not the worst idea in the world to go second, because you get to do the initial flame screen, and that's something that's really handy. So we see a Jirachi that we're facing down, and that's kind of a worry for this deck, but obviously we're not going to be attaching DC this turn, so first thing I want to do is throw away a Fire Energy and get 2 more cards. So from that we hit double Assault Vest. Just because I don't know what his deck is, I'm not comfortable getting rid of those vests. So it might be a situation where I get rid of Acro Bike and Super Scoop up here to find Shaymin. We'd only get a couple of cards, so it might even be the case where I want to simply pass this turn. Yeah, I'm happy just passing here. Surprisingly enough, even though it's a very ineffective turn, until I know what our opponent is playing, I can't comfortably get rid of our vests, and I can't comfortably commit them to Charizard, so just getting 2 cards off of Shaymin doesn't seem strong enough for me. We can evaluate what our opponent's playing next turn and do more optimal plays from there. So we see our opponent discard a Crobat, so it might be Fighting Bats, it might be Manectric Bats. Oh wow, we see Seismitoad. That's kind of a worry. If he can get a punch this turn, that could be awkward. We see DC onto Toad as well. We see Muscle Band onto Seismitoad, so threatening 100 damage on our Charizard this turn. Our hand is all trainers, it's something I didn't play around. Our opponent goes for Giovanni, so maybe looking for something like Floatstone or a switching card. These Toad Bats decks don't often play too many switching cards, which I'm banking on right now, really. We see a Level Ball from the Trainer's Mail. That's going to get played, so it looks like we're up against Toad Bats. Toad Bats isn't too horrible, as long as we can get these vests on board. Our opponent finds a Zorua, so Zorua is going to be, or Zoroark is going to be his main means of switching here. So, looks like our opponent whiffed the Floatstone, which is pretty good for us. And we actually get a Shaymin off the top. That's pretty awesome. It means we can... I think I want to discard... We want to keep both our vests. I'm just going to get rid of these 2 cards here. And it means we can find Entei and double vest it, which is pretty awesome. I think I still want to attach DCE to Charizard this turn. I think. Let me just evaluate this quickly. We can threaten Jirachi for the KO. Okay, even if I just attach DC to Charizard, I could use it as a means of switching into Entei, because Flame Screen can kill a Jirachi with weakness, so I think that's the best play for now, and we're going to go for a setup. Fortunately, we didn't get punished by a Quaking Punch like we easily could have been. Fortunately, that wasn't the case, so we draw into some fire so we can use Scorched Earth, and now we have double roller skates, so hopefully we're looking to find a Blacksmith off of this, or a Battle Compressor. We do hit Entei and Blacksmith. Let's play our other roller skates down. And double heads, wow, we are in luck today. I don't want to play too many Enteis down too early. I think I just want to play 1 more down for now. Because we don't really want to fall prey to stuff like Lysandre's when we only have 1 Blacksmith available right now. So we're going to be using Blacksmith this turn. And we're going to do it on our active Entei. Because we have double vest already. And we'll be using Flame Screen to reduce even more damage. It means Toad is doing nothing. I think I want to use our tools while we can. I'll attach a vest and a muscle band to Charizard just so that we don't get head-ringered. And we want to use VS Seeker now so that we don't get affected by the punch as much. So that will be a pretty successful turn. We've got pretty much the optimal setup with our Entei in the active position. And we have Blacksmith for next turn as well. So we've managed to do quite a lot that turn. We do get Ultra Ball. It's not going to be too helpful, assuming our opponent does continue to punch us. We also have to worry about the Zoroark, but for now, it's not doing much damage at all. We see him attach a Dark Energy, so it might be that our opponent is playing the... what's it called? The Break Evolution. And the Break Evolution is slightly threatening to us, because it can actually copy our own attack to deal 130, which is perfect numbers on Entei. So we might look to Lysandre up that Zorua at some point if we're able to find it. But at the moment we're limited to what we can do because we are facing down Quaking Punches here. So we're going to see Quaking Punch for 0 just for the disruption factor more than anything else. And we are very limited in what we can do. I don't want to attach DCE just yet. No real need to commit to it, especially because our opponent might have space for a hammer or 2, so let's get the initial 30 damage on the board and pass it over to our opponent. One issue with our opponent playing bats is they still find a way of making damage counters on our dudes, so these sorts of things could rack up here and there. We see DC go onto one Zorua, a Muscle Band onto the other, and we do see an Ultra Ball. Wow, he plays Target Whistle. Wow, I was not expecting that. How does he make space for Target Whistle in a deck like this? It's already playing a stage 2 and like multiple stage 1 lines. Very interesting. So our opponent finds a Golbat and puts it on the active Pokemon. And we see a Sycamore. We see our opponent evolve into Zoroark. And we see Skyfield get played down. Very interesting build. And again, Quaking Punch for 0, preventing our plays more than anything else. So we hit Shaymin. Again, I'm not in a position where I want to do much. Because we've commit double Vest to Entei, we need one more Flame Screen, and then next turn we can go for a Heat Tackle knockout. As long as our opponent doesn't go into Zoroark, the break. So we'll again be content hitting the 30 damage. So we see our opponent use a Trainer's Mail. Looks like they're considering their options a little bit. I completely missed that because I was looking at the discard pile. We see a Super Rod from our opponent. Getting back Golbat, Jirachi. Just those two. We see the evolution into Crobat. That's going on our benched Entei. For some reason he's trying to set up damage counters in a sort of random format. We see DCE go into Crobat. And Muscle Band onto the other Zorua. And we see VS Seeker for Sycamore, which is going to help him dig through his deck even more. Another Target Whistle, wow. So he's trying to get damage from Zoroark that way. Very interesting deck, indeed. We then see a Golbat come onto our active Pokemon, so that's a worry. Another Zorua, wow, so many things in our opponent's deck. And they pass it over to us, thankfully. So, oh wow, he passed. He didn't even use Punch. Okay, well that's a clear misplay from our opponent, but we'll take it while we can. I'm going to grab Muscle Band. That's fantastic for us. Okay, yeah, he scooped because he realised. But yeah, that demonstrated how little Toad could do, so I'll keep it in there while we... So we found ourselves a game against Greed is Not Good. Preaching to the choir. And hopefully this loads up pretty quick so we can get going. My third world internet always struggles with PTCGO. But here we are. Our opponent is flipping a coin. Now we lost the flip, so our opponent's going to choose. Like I said earlier, this deck doesn't mind going second. There's some matchups where it's preferable. And again, we start with our Charizard. Which isn't horrible, but not ideal either. We see a Remoraid, and what decks play Octillery? Magnezone Raikou does, I guess, Gallade Octillery. Those are probably the main two. It might be something more rogue than that, who knows, we'll have to see. We see a Battle Compressor from our opponent, so not really sure what to expect at this point. Our opponent is going to throw away a Dark Energy and a couple of supporters. And they VS Seeker for Birch. I'm still intrigued, no closer to knowing what this deck is. Unfortunately, our opponent flips Tails on Birch. We see a Manectric and a Lightning Energy. And a pass. Okay. So, Manectric means I want to hunt down a Muscle Band this turn. And it also means I want to... I've seen two different types of energy and two different types of Pokemon so far. It might even be something like a Rainbow Road or something really rogue and out there. For now, let's use Compressor first, because I definitely want to put another Fire Energy as well as a Blacksmith in the discard pile, because we do have VS Seeker, and I think I'm also going to put Lysandre in there over Sycamore, as long as it's in deck. Lysandre is there, so that's good. Let's count some other things. Oops. DCEs is something important to count. We do have all four. We have all four muscle bands as well. So it's all looking pretty okay. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. And we have town map, so at some point all will be revealed to us, but I'm pretty certain nothing too important is in the discard pile right now. So we're going to spend an Ultra Ball getting rid of a vest because it's not too important, and we're going to find Shaymin. Like I say, we don't want to commit vest to Charizard, even though it does mean we have one less card, because we want to threaten Manectric next turn, and also attaching a tool allows the Manectric to do more damage this turn, so we don't want that either. So we will VS Seeker Blacksmith now, because we can then, if we find one more energy, we can kill this Remoraid. So that's really all we're looking for off the Shaymin. A Muscle Band for next turn would be nice as well. We do hit an energy, but we also hit Scorched Earth. The first thing I want to do is try and use my flippy cards and see if we can get any additional cards. So let's go for Super Scoop Up as well. Both are tails, so we have to commit the energy to the active Pokemon if we want to get the knockout this turn, which I do. So we will sort of leave it at that and just go for the wing attack for the prize. Could have gone for the Scorched Earth to dig, but really we were just digging for energy, so we are fortunate enough to get a fire off the discard, off the prizes, and that's going to help us out get more cards of Scorched Earth next turn. Our opponent plays down Manectric, attaches a Dark, and uses a Skylar, hoping that this is not for a Headringer. It is indeed for Headringer, so we need to find DCE next turn. Or we could even use another Blacksmith, if we can somehow discard another energy. But it means we can't kill this Manectric, which is a pain. So I want to, let's think about sequencing. I think the Scorched Earth is fine to use first. We hit Super Scoop Up and Ultra Ball. Do I want to Ultra Ball for just a Shaymin? I think we'll Ultra Ball for Entei, Super Scoop Up, or pay Retreat and use Blacksmith. That's an option. I think I just want to draw more cards here. Let's use Super Scoop Up and see what we get here. Another Tails, so we have to spend the Ultra Ball on a Shaymin. Could have got rid of the Blacksmith there, chose not to just because it's so important, and I'm looking to maybe get another attacker going this turn and just pay Retreat on Charizard, so that's kind of the mindset. We do hit Entei, so it might just be here that I want to pay Retreat on Charizard. Go into Entei for that 30 damage. I'll keep the Muscle Band in hand for now, because again I don't want to play into that Assault Laser damage. And because we're a non-EX, our opponent can't force Entei to have a tool on it until we do so. So for now we will go for the Flame Screen just for the 30. Setting up Manectric for next turn. Our opponent has a 1-card hand, so if we're able to draw more cards, we could even go for a Donk. We did only put the Lysandre in the discard, so at this point I'm thinking I would have preferred it to be a Sycamore. But we'll see what we top deck. We've had a few bad Tails flips this game. Wow, we see Assault Laser for 30. Oh wow, we hit Compressor. So now we're going immediately to discard some stuff we don't need, and Sycamore's going to be one of those, so we can get a fresh hand. Because, oh no, hold on, I can get Blacksmith, right? Oh, okay. Blacksmith guarantees it. What was I thinking? Oh, does it? Hold on. Only one fire in the discard pile. Is there one already in there? Yes, there's one already in there, so that's all we need to discard. I guess we can troll him. Discard a couple of other useless cards. And we can use Blacksmith. Awesome. And I have no idea what this deck was, but we did well against it just by being quick, and again indicating Entei's speed, which is pretty cool. Turn 1 we took a prize, turn 3 we took 2 prizes and ended the game. Very awkward matchup, not really sure about it, but let's find one more and hopefully we get a better matchup. So we found a game against Bona with a bunch of different numbers. Flipping a coin, and I'm going for heads as usual, and we win the flip, which is lovely. So we will go first. And we lead Shaymin, which isn't fantastic, but we do have Ultra Ball and Super Scoop Up, so it could work out decently. Our opponent has no basic, so we will throw our Shaymin out there, then we'll have a look at what our opponent has here. Dark Energy DCEs, Maxis, looks like it's a pretty standard Yveltal Gallade Zoroark, which is a really good matchup for this deck. There is the Gallade. I was kind of lazy, I should have looked at all those cards, but I pretty much know what his deck is. So getting a few extra cards off the mulligan is going to be nice as well. Should lead to a pretty explosive turn from us. So, we have the luxury of getting rid of 2 fire energy straight away, which is absolutely amazing. And because we have 2 super scoop ups, I think it's safe to go for Entei. Like, going for just a Shaymin there would have got us like 0 cards, so not really worth it. Let's play out our super scoop ups now. You do get 1 tails. 2 tails is pretty ugly, so I think we need to hold DCE for now, which is a shame. Real shame. We want to... I think we could try and protect Entei, but it seems safe enough. And if we hit double Muscle Man, we can kill Zorua. But then we'd easily be threatened by the Yveltal. No, it's fine to attach the vest. That double tails was kind of ugly, but there was no real other way. Like, because of our hand, we could have got rid of 1 tool and got like 2 cards off his Shaymin. I guess if I attach the DC as well, but that's kind of awkward. I'm just debating if I attach DC this turn. It really has space for hammers, so I'm going to, so that potentially I could just pay retreat, find a bunch of different things next turn and be happy, but I doubt it. So for now we're just going with the attachment. We see Battle Compressor. Whoops. Getting rid of Max's Gallade and Hex. We see Floatstone onto Zorua. Pretty ideal for our opponent. He actually goes into the Yveltal. Which is nice, because getting an initial 30 can help us out later on. Especially because we've put a vest on Entei now. We see a Training Spell from our opponent. Finds an Ultra Ball, so if he has VS Seeker, he actually has the Gallade here. Which is pretty nice for him, I imagine. There go 2 supporters. And our opponent gets a baby Yveltal, so it looks like he does indeed have it. Otherwise, we'd be seeing a Shaymin right there. Oh, wow. Wait, what? Whoa. What? Why on earth would our opponent do that? That is suicidal. That is insane. Well, that's really opened up the game. Our opponent has one card off the top. If it's a VS Seeker, I'm just going to cry. And energy is still really bad. So we just need to hit Blacksmith off of this Shaymin that we'll be using, because then we can kill the Yveltal, which is insane. Unfortunately, the Fire Energy is not a playable card, so we're only getting 3 cards here. But hopefully we can do well off of it. Our opponent was absolutely crazy there. Moment of madness. We hit Blacksmith, so we can really punish this now. I really... There's like no way I can back up that play. That was insanity. And we have the knockout, which is pretty sweet. I don't feel like I want to commit any more because our opponent only has 1 top deck. So the Zoroark can't evolve into Zoroark and attack, and the Yveltal can't do much unless he hits a supporter and gets super lucky. Because that deck more than most, well, it plays fewer than most, so it would really be fortuitous for him to get out of it. Lysandre isn't good, so that's fine. Our opponent really is on the defensive here. Does he retreat out of Zoroark? He just scoops. So, although it was Yveltal Gallade, that was just retarded play from our opponent. I don't know what was going on there, but that was a deck. I've had 3 games now, and as you may have seen, my computer's running out of battery, so I've got to go. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comments down below. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And it's been Joe from OmniPoke, and I will see you guys next time.